You're starting it already just by meeting with me and having this conversation. That would be the first step. If you're feeling like you are prepared to start house hunting, you'd want to talk to a lender, someone who's actually going to look at your overall financial position to see what your income is, what kind of debts you have, so you can figure out, first of all, what your monthly payment could be, what you could afford in a monthly payment, and that will inform the price point that you would be looking for in an actual property. Some buyers choose to meet with a lender first before meeting with a realtor. So you can get valuable information from meeting with a lender first. The lender's going to talk to you about the financial piece, your personal financial piece, and the loans available for you. What's your current income situation? What kind of debts do you have? What's your credit score? They may or may not actually run your credit. If they're running your credit, they've probably decided that you are ready to start writing offers. My recommendation would be to hold off on getting your credit run until you're feeling prepared to write an offer on a house. A lender will be able to get you pre-qualified based on your verbal information about your income and your debts. They can give you an idea of what you could qualify for, and then they can run your credit and get you a pre-qualification letter to include with any offer that you write. Even better than a pre-qualification is a pre-approval. We'll talk more about that later. But really the first step is maybe driving around the different neighborhoods and getting a feel. As a house hunter, now you want to find out personally, where do you want to be? What kind of house do you want to be in? And honing in on the amenities that are important to you in a house. And then from there, your realtor can help advise you. If you're working with a realtor who has an understanding of lending, myself included, having worked in banking and loan origination in the past. If you're working with a realtor who has an understanding of the lending environment, they can give you an idea of evaluating your financial position and your preparedness to actually get a loan started. I'm going to recommend that in order to fully evaluate your financial position, that you talk with a mortgage lender. And I work with several preferred lenders locally that I trust to help walk my clients through the process, who I know are good communicators and that work well with me. Even though I get to hand over the keys and then I drive away, I want to maintain a relationship with my clients so that any of their real estate needs are met by me, that they know if they need a plumber, they don't have to go on Yelp or put it out on Facebook to a million random people. They can reach out to their real estate professional and say, Annalise, I need a plumber. Who do you recommend? Or I'm thinking about upgrading my kitchen and I'm curious what kind of value that's going to add to my property. Those kinds of things are really important. You're investing a lot into upgrades, into maintenance, and you don't want to throw your money away. And I want to be available to my clients so they have peace of mind the entire time they're in that home, that they've got a professional real estate partner on their side. So that ongoing relationship is important to me too. And some of the ways I do that may not just be checking in now and then. It may be having a client appreciation event or an open house and making sure that they get invited so we can stay in touch. I love running into clients out and about. And in Humboldt, that's very common. You know, we have a tight-knit community here. I handle every one of my transactions with the expectation that I'm going to be running into these people for years to come. You're in my community. This is my community. I care about my community. The start of the process, talk to your realtor. At the end of the process, keep in touch with your realtor. And that's whether it's me or it's somebody else. Just as much as you would consult with your tax advisor on financial decisions or your banker or your attorney on legal decisions, your realtor is your real estate professional. So anything real estate related, you want to have a trusted partner. And I have clients that maybe we haven't closed any real estate transactions together yet, but they know that anything real estate related related. I've got the market information. I stay on top of the market data. I'm connected with local vendors, and I know what buyers are looking for in a property and how to bring value to your property. So maintaining that relationship, having a relationship with a trusted real estate partner is more than just buying a home or selling a home. That's an ongoing relationship you want to have. So the lender is not going to know what inspections you do. They're not going to ask to see those inspections. They generally don't want to see those inspections. They are looking at the appraisal specifically. There are things that can come up on the appraisal. Most often they're related to the health and safety of the property. It depends on the type of loan that you're getting and the lender that you're working with and the appraiser. All those pieces could come into play. So if a lender's coming through and they realize that there's no heating in the house, that could be an issue. And maybe a lender is not going to want to lend on a home that doesn't have heating. That might be a condition of the loan. They may not just outright say, well, we're not going to lend on this property. They might say, well, get a heating unit in place and then we'll close. The most common things that will come back to you on appraisal is missing smoke alarms and CO detectors, or having your water heater not properly strapped. Those are very common things for an appraiser to hone in on. So something interesting about the inspections that a buyer pays for is if something does come up that's kind of gnarly and you go back to the seller, you still want to buy the house, let's say, but the seller's not willing to compromise because the seller's under no obligation to negotiate at that point. You have an accepted offer. They can say yay or nay. If they say no, you as the buyer, with the contingency in place, make the decision to cancel the contract. You get your initial deposit back. But now the seller is obligated to disclose those inspections to any future prospective buyers. So in that way, a seller may be more motivated to negotiate with the bird they have in the hand, so to speak. Plus, they've already committed however much time it's taken to gather that information to this escrow. So they may not want to go back to the market with more days on the market. That all being said, I would never recommend that a buyer enter into a contract with the intention to renegotiate. I would want to be really clear with anybody about that. It's probably going to end up being frustrating for all parties if you go into a contract with the expectation that you're going to renegotiate. Your initial offer should be based on the information that you have, and just have that be your offer. You get the inspections to ensure that the property's in the condition that you believe it's in. Sometimes things do come up, and at that point, you want to have another conversation with the seller. But if anything that comes up is something that was or could have been obvious from your initial walkthrough, you may not have much ground to renegotiate with the seller. Typically, that initial deposit is going to be held while you're doing all your inspections. That's covered by the inspection contingency, assuming you haven't released your inspection contingency. The inspection contingency is in place to protect you from finding out something after your offer has been accepted that would be a deal breaker for you. It's difficult after walking through the house once or maybe twice to know what's going on underneath the house, to know what's going on in between the walls, to know if all the appliances work. So during the inspection contingency, you'll get a long list of inspections that you could choose to have. That could be a chimney inspection, electrical, HVAC, most common, pest and home inspections. So you'll pay for the inspections out of pocket. This is not included in closing costs. In 95% of loans, your lender is not going to require any kind of inspection. It's up to you as the buyer what inspections you want to purchase for yourself so you have peace of mind about the condition of the property you're about to buy. An inspection is different from the appraisal. A lender is going to require an appraisal. Also, the appraisal is paid for by the buyer, but it is included in closing costs. So the pest inspector is going to look for specific items related to pests being wood-destroying pests or fungus and dry rot. Here in Northern California, that's what they're looking for. So they're not looking for large mammals or rats specifically. So a pest inspection here in Humboldt County, they're looking specifically for wood-destroying pests and dry rot and fungus. Most common wood-destroying pests that we have up here, you might be thinking termite, but it's actually the wood-boring beetle or powder post beetle. So if you come across that, just know in Humboldt, it's not an uncommon pest. And as long as it's maintained and caught in a reasonable time, it can be dealt with. When you're working with a realtor, they're going to be able to help you assess that situation, but primarily you're going to be talking to the inspector about those specific issues that come up. So the pest inspector is going to go through the house, going to poke at trim, going to go underneath the house, check for moisture, check for leaks, and they're going to divide the inspection up into sections. There's going to be section 1, section 2, unknown, and further inspections. So section 1 are active infestations. Those are the things that I, as a realtor, hone in on, as what is going on with section 1. Those would be active infestations of beetles, termites, or rot. Section 2 are the items that could lead to a section 1. Those would be leaks, or something we see often is something called cellulose debris. That's a fancy way of saying there's some wood or trash maybe under the house, which is a buffet for all kinds of pests. But it's a scary word, so it can be intimidating if you see that on a report. But again, working with your agent and an inspector will help educate you on whatever comes up in those reports. So that's section 2, are things that could lead to a section 1 item. Those are worth addressing as soon as you can, but they're nothing that's actively going to affect the material value of the home. Unknown and further inspections are exactly that. They're unknown. Maybe the inspector couldn't access a piece of the property because of personal belongings, or they couldn't get completely under the house because of ducting. So they're going to put further inspection or unknown because they can't reach those areas to fully inspect them. So we frankly do not know if there's any section 1 or section 2 items. He may also, in that unknown section, recommend general contractor come in to estimate the cost of those potential repairs. If an item falls into section 1 or section 2, the pest inspector will actually give an estimate for cost of correction if they were to do the work. So that gives you an idea of what it would cost you if you were to make those repairs. And it also gives you that information to provide to the seller to say, well, now we wrote our offer not knowing this, and now that we know it, maybe we can come to some kind of a compromise because it's going to cost us this much. And we didn't know that going into the offer. The home inspection isn't going to give you any dollar amounts, but it will raise any potential red flags. They look a lot deeper than just our initial walkthrough of the property. They're going to test all the appliances. They're going to test the outlets, make sure they're grounded. They'll look up the chimney. They'll crawl under the house, go into the attic. They're licensed to point out anything that could be of concern and recommend further inspection by a professional in that arena. So whether it's, there looks to be some cracking on that chimney, you may want to get a chimney inspection. Couldn't get the heater to fire, you probably want to get an HVAC specialist out. So the home inspection just gives you a good overall assessment of the condition of the home and what unknowns might be worth looking further into. Some of those unknowns you may have already identified in your walkthrough. You may already see, oh, there's 2-prong plugs here in this wall. I already know that I would like to get an electrical inspection. During your inspection contingency, you can get any inspection done that you are interested in. Okay, so when you're writing an offer on a property, or even selling a property, there's really endless contingencies. It could be contingent on the sun rising tomorrow. It could be contingent on you selling a piece of property. There's 3 primary contingencies that we talk about in real estate. That's the inspection contingency, the appraisal contingency, and the loan contingency. Those are the most common that we're going to talk about in real estate with our clients. In any ideal transaction, you've got an accepted offer, you complete all your inspections, and everything's as you expect, and you're ready to move forward with the transaction. So you would let that seller know, and you would communicate that through a writing and through a document called a release of contingencies. So you would release the specific contingency that you're releasing. In this scenario that we're talking about, the inspection contingency, you would say, hey, seller, I've done my due diligence. I've done my inspections. I'm comfortable moving forward as is. And for that reason, I would now forfeit my initial deposit to you based on the information that I now know. In many cases, once you've done inspections, you're likely to have discovered something you didn't know going into the transaction. And it may be material, it may be minor, but still important to address. So you'll take that information and discuss with your realtor how you want to proceed, what your strategy is. And you'll have a couple of options. You'll have a few options. You can go to your seller and say, I now know A, B, and C. And for that reason, I'd really like you to lower the price of this home to accommodate for that. You can also ask the seller to make those specific repairs. Hey, there's a leak beneath the kitchen sink. Before we close escrow, I want you to fix that. You can also ask the seller for a credit towards closing costs. That is cash that you no longer have to bring to the table. So you can use those funds to make that repair on the kitchen sink or whatever it is. Technically, if you get a seller's credit, that's just cash that you save. You can put it towards your kids' college fund. That's one way to work with the seller to accommodate for any discoveries during the inspection period. If and assuming you'd still be interested in moving forward with that transaction, you can also cancel the contract at that point if you're just done and you don't want to go back to the table. So once you've made your request of the seller, whether it is for specific repairs, whether it's for a price reduction or a credit, the seller is under no obligation to make those concessions. So they could say yes, they could say no, and they could also counter and try and come to a compromise with you. If they say yes, then you would be agreeing to move forward with the transaction and you sign the contingency release at that point. If they say no or they counter and try to come to a compromise, you as the buyer are still in the driver's seat. And you can move forward with the compromise. You can move forward with the condition of the property as is, with no concessions, or you can cancel the contract and get your deposit back, assuming you still have the inspection contingency in place. I would not recommend going into a transaction with the expectation that you're going to be able to renegotiate. That being said, it is very common that during inspections, something unknown comes up. So it's not uncommon to be back at the negotiating table after the inspection contingency. But there's no guarantees. So going in with an expectation, going into a contract with your initial offer with the expectation that you're going to renegotiate is not a solid strategy in my book. That's not the way that I work with my clients.